Yes, hello, this is the Kayo Sports NRL podcast. Lara Pitt here, back in the hot seat from a long summer break alongside three-time premiership winner. A very warm welcome to you, Luke Keary. And also, you've been keeping your powder dry, Paul
Yes,
Crawley.
I have. Lots to talk about.
Had a good summer break, and we are looking forward to you coming in all guns blazing.
Thank
Great
you.
to see you, Crawls. Luke, I feel like I have to introduce you by saying, is this the first summer in Sydney where you haven't done a pre-season in how many years? As a player, do you reckon?
13 seasons.
13 seasons.
I think it was 13 or probably did 14 or 15.
Wow.
It is liberating.
A different summer.
It's liberating.
Is it?
I feel good.
Yeah. You feel
Someone
rested?
asked me for a beer on a Tuesday, I can go have a beer with him.
Have you weighed yourself?
I haven't. I've actually stopped eating because I'm scared.
Yeah, you've let
scared.
yourself go, clearly.
Yeah.
No, lucky though. You don't look like a kind of person that would happen to.
hope not.
But school holidays are over for us, Paul, so me and Luke are cheering. And it means that the footy's about, less than 2 weeks away?
It is.
How was the
close.
summer spent for you?
Pretty quiet. Just hanging around home on the Central Coast and going to the beach. Well, that happens when I mow the lawn. But, very quiet but relaxing and good.
Yeah, looking healthy, that's for sure. Luke, you've gotten off the plane from the UK, playing overseas, playing in Super League, and you were in France, right?
France,
yeah, but playing Super League, and I feel like you've been popping up everywhere, doing as much media as possible. We love that, and also taking on a role at the Roosters. So
yeah, I'm getting around a little
tell
bit.
us about that. Like,
That's
how's
good.
that going?
Yeah,
Back at your old
obviously,
club.
before I left, had a few discussions with Mitchell and Robbo and Nick, and then come back in, myself and Jared were kind of hanging around, helping out with the young boys a bit in and around the first grade team. So it's been really rewarding to... Jared's got a big involvement in the academy at the moment and helping him. There's Boyd Cordner there, Paul Momorowski's come back. So it's been awesome just to kind of sit on the other side of things and help these young kids and coach them a bit. And it's rewarding, and it's great to be back around the club.
Did you take Cooper Cronk's job? 'Cause
No,
wasn't
he claims
there?
I did. No, he claims I did. No, definitely not.
So coaching, is that?
Definitely
are you keen
not.
on that?
We'll see. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think you know till you're in the actual hot seat.
Yeah.
Are you keen to have a break, like physically?
Oh,
Did you
yeah.
know it was time?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. I kind of obviously was going to finish in 24 in the NRL season, and then I felt good at the back end. Robbo come up with the idea of going over there and having the experience, and I'm so grateful for it. It was a great experience. My family loved it. Experienced a different culture over there in France, but physically, I think I need a break.
Yeah.
Well, you had a fair go, didn't you? Long career, 3 premierships. Not many
Nick
people
rang me
get
the
to
other
do
day to
that.
play in the Vegas night,
Did he?
so it was a flat no straight away.
But you're going to go to Vegas. You're going to come over.
But coaching,
Okay.
the LA Roosters. So
Okay. The Roosters can't keep away from Vegas,
No.
can they? They just love it
Nick
so much
loves it.
over there. We're going to talk a bit more about where the Roosters sit this season, how we all think they're going to go. Clearly, Luke is going to have very high hopes for them, and you can give us some insight into how that's all playing out at pre-season training so far with a pretty high-profile recruit this season that you probably are working closely with. But let's talk firstly about what's making headlines and get your take on this, Paul. Just the Zac Lomax saga has been a hot topic all summer, and now it's headed for the courts. Where do you sit on all of this?
I think it's outrageous from Zac Lomax to expect to get straight back into the NRL. I can't see how he has a legal leg to stand on. He went into an agreement with Parramatta. Firstly, he got out of his contract at St George Illawarra. He went to Parramatta, signed a 4-year deal, lasted 1 season. I think it was last July he went to the club and said he wanted to take up an opportunity outside of rugby league in this R360. With legal representation, he sat down with the club. He agreed to the terms of a release, which one part of it said he wasn't to play with another club in the NRL before the end of 2028 unless it was with Parramatta's permission. And now, when R360 falls over, suddenly the Storm want to pick him up and Parramatta are expected to fall over and say, no worries, no way in the world.
Yeah.
yeah, it's a bizarre. Melbourne are at no fault here. Obviously, Zac's
of course.
openly shopping him around. Good on they've lost Eli Katoa for the year. There's obviously a spot there, but I applaud Parramatta. They are doing the best thing for themselves, their club, their team, and their members and fans to stand firm on what they said. Zac's obviously signed that, saying that conversation with Jason and the CEO at Parramatta would have been totally different if he went to him in July and said, I want to leave and go to Melbourne. There's no way they would have.
Released him.
Way they would have released him 1 year, 4 years.
And people say, well, Parramatta agreed to release him and they have moved on, but they were pushed into that position. Like if Jason Riles has a player come to him and says, look, I want out, what's he meant to say? No, please stay. Like, they had to move forward. But I think now that, like you say, they've got an obligation to their club and their fans to stand firm on this. And it would surprise me if the NRL got involved and tried to push for some resolution because it's not their business. It's a deal that was made between Parramatta and Zac Lomax and his management. He went into it with eyes wide open. Sonny Bill Williams, it was mentioned at the NRL Chief Executive's hookup last week when this was discussed. And one of the chief executives, I think it was Blake Solly, brought up the fact that, what's different to when Sonny Bill Williams walked out on the Bulldogs in 2008, and Sonny Bill didn't come back until 2013. That's 5 years out of the NRL. And this, supposedly, Zac wants to get back straight away. The NRL didn't go through with their decision to stand people down for 10 years, but the threat was there. And I think if they fall over straight away at their first hurdle, well, what's that say?
Yeah, well, that was the intention. He would be playing 360, that R360, if it was up and running. Like he would be. So that 10-year ban, what would have been in effect. So it's purely because it's fallen over. So it comes down to the legal eagles, right? And at the end of the day, if they get... Melbourne obviously are set in their salary cap. They probably can only afford to give compensation to a certain point to Parramatta.
Or a player.
The word fair and reasonable keeps coming up when they're negotiating this price, right? It's going to be subjective through, what do Parramatta think he's worth? What do Melbourne think he's worth? But it should be on Parramatta to go, we think Zac is worth, it could be 500, it could be $1 million. And if someone wants to buy him, they come and buy him. Or if they say, no, he's not worth money, we want a player. And
so do you see a world where he could sit out this season potentially and he doesn't get a deal then? Because what club has $1 million or 800 or 500 just sitting around at the moment?
It's not just what club, it's one club that wants him. It's one club
that
I understand he wants to go to.
Yeah.
And Parramatta have already sat down, I'm pretty certain, with Zac and his legal advisors, and they've tried to nut out a resolution, but so far they haven't come up with one that they're going to agree to. There's talk that Jack Howarth, who else was mentioned in the... Stefano and Xavier Coates. Good luck getting Xavier Coates.
Well, Xavier Coates is the logical one, right? Because Zac he's probably the best winger in the competition right now, right? State of origin winger, would have played for Australia, gave up the jersey to go to rugby.
But who's letting... What Melbourne Storm fan is saying, sure, let Xavier Coates go for Zac Lomax, who's going to leave maybe in a year or two anyway.
You've also got Xavier Coates might not want to leave, and Stefano might not want to leave.
And that's the
Jack
big
Howarth
problem, right? Is that the
leave.
club, at the end of the day, how does it work? A club comes to Coates, Howarth or Utoikamanu or whoever it is and says, would you like to go? Is that what happens? Or they force them out? Like, how does
it... You can't be forced out.
So you have to want to move to Parramatta?
The player at Melbourne would have to agree, yes, I'm willing to move. Like, it has to be agreed. It would have to be agreed by all four parties to move, which is, it's going to be...
a near impossible task.
And this is, again, it's not a personal thing against Zac Lomax, but, it's got to the stage where if you look at the feedback from the majority of fans at the moment, I'm saying it's 99% that are totally behind Parramatta on this. And you rarely see it that all the rival clubs are also on Parramatta's side, and they're behind them totally to make this into a legal matter and try and push forward and get a resolution that's in there. Of course, Melbourne's not, but you rarely see that. So I thought when I read that the NRL was trying to nut out some sort of resolution, I'm thinking to myself, you're picking the wrong fight here.
Yeah.
You've got to back Parramatta on this.
Yeah, your clubs.
And if Zac Lomax has a problem, he should be taking it up with his management.
Yeah.
Not Parramatta, because unless he knew exactly what he was doing, whether it was the management that made the decision, well, that's where the issue is. It's not Parramatta's fault.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
There was a complete stuff up, obviously, with thinking that R360 was going to happen. It hasn't happened, and now pushed himself into a corner. So he goes into court, mid-February, so we won't know really anymore until beyond that. Over the summer, though, a heap of rule changes were announced. I think people have spoken about this quite a lot, Paul, but I guess your thoughts on or which one stands out to you?
Well, I guess the kick-off, the change of the kick-off rule for me is probably the most talked about. I remember talking to Bennett when he was the driving force behind this, and my initial reaction was I'd rather stick with tradition. But, he brought up some pretty good points about the fact that teams can get under the gun with the 6-again rule now and penalties, and the way the game's gone, there's just this avalanche of possession, and it's really hard to pull yourself back on that. And I think if the 6-again rule had never come, we wouldn't have to worry about this, but the 6-again rule did come, and it came for a reason, because the game was bogged down in wrestle for a decade. And when the 6-again first came in, I thought it was an absolute breath of fresh air. It was really good, and it made the game such a greater spectacle. But I think now the time's come where you've got to try and turn it up. What do you reckon?
So when the 6-again, I still remember it during COVID, and I was so against it as a player because it's pulling at the fabric of the game. It's not traditional. It has been the best thing. It's been the best thing. As a player, as a fan, as a spectacle, the numbers tell the story, obviously, of how our game's kind of grown over the last 5 years. And then everything they've done since has seemed to work, right?
Yeah.
So I'm the same, right? A lot of people that I've spoken to, they think this is pulling at the fabric of the game again. It's not traditional. There's an art in being able to wrestle back momentum. But then, as a fan, I go, I don't think it's a bad thing. I don't think it's a bad thing. It does allow a team, it's had a negative play against them, you're straight back into the game.
Yeah.
The game's straight back on. You don't have to defend another set, try to get the ball back, try to get back into it.
There was a game earlier this year, and it sticks out in my mind when I started thinking about this rule. It was Canberra and Manly, really early in the season, and Manly just had this mountain of possession. And the Raiders, I think they got like 40 points put on them, and they just hardly touched the ball in the first half. And when you look back on that game, sure, there was a few acts of ill discipline and a few, bad defensive moments and that, but really it was fatigue that just mounted and mounted and mounted. I mean, they just couldn't pull their way out of it. Yeah. And in the end, a lot of those mistakes came through absolute fatigue. Yeah. And that's one game where you think to yourself, well, if you go back and watch that game and then you think about this rule, I reckon, I see sense in it. It's at least worth a try.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's worth a try. Could we, as a game, have tried this in New South Wales Cup last year or Queensland Cup?
It goes, yeah.
Harold Matson, SG Ball are about to start next week.
Yeah.
Could they have done it through that? Could we have done it in the NRLW games? Could we have trialled this before rolling it out a couple of weeks before the season starts?
Yeah, well, they probably could have, because they know this was coming for months. You tell me, do you really think there's any club out there right now that doesn't think this rule will be implemented straight away?
I think there's a lot of pushback.
There is a lot of pushback, but I think most clubs are resigned to the fact that it's going to go through.
From past experiences, they probably all go through.
Yeah. I would just argue that we might not see the comeback, right? So if you think about games like you talk about momentum games, so I was in Canberra for Raiders v Bulldogs last year. Raiders smashed them in the first half, and the Bulldogs started to come back, and they scored like 24 unanswered points, I think, or something like that to win, and Crichton had an absolute blinder down that edge. And I'm like, they would have, every try they scored...
Had to kick off.
They would have, Canberra would have then elected to receive. So it would have stopped that comeback. And then we were talking with my crew on the fan about the game, the famous comebacks the Rabbitohs did against the Roosters.
The kick-off.
That wouldn't have happened either. Because...
Yeah, obviously you're going to have to go the short kick-off route.
But I know, but do you know what I mean? You're not going to get that length of the field spectacular comeback win. We're just not thinking about those games that, as fans, you're like, you're not going to get those sets again to try and launch your comeback. Anyway, that's my concern about the kick-off rule, is that, of course, if you concede, you're going to... You're going to want to receive. I like the interchange rule. I think, as an absolute nerd of the game, I like that we've got more players to talk about, more players to use. Tactically, coaches can have them there and not reveal to us as journos who they're going to use in a game until game day. And they could change that based on what the game is, how the game's unfolding, right? So, I mean, I don't know, is that something...
I'm against it.
You don't like 6 players on the bench? Is it 6 players on the bench?
It's
It
six,
is.
you
Yeah.
can use 4. I
You
just
don't like
think
it.
there is, obviously from experience being around the team, right, there is an art in how coaches build their bench. Build your bench for 4 players. I still remember Origin 2020, Game 3, Freddie was talking about should he play Paps at 14. They won Game 2. They ended up playing Nathan Brown there. Paps didn't play. Teddy got knocked out in the first 20 minutes. Game over. Like, there is an art in how a coach... He played Nico Hines one series.
But see, that would avoid that then, if you've got 6 potentially
I know,
to
but
call upon. If you lose a fullback in the opening minute...
Yeah,
But
Luke's
I feel
saying
like
no.
it lets you off then as a
Yeah,
coach, right?
and-
It's your decision. Do you walk in with 3 middles, a hooker? Do you walk in with 2 middles, an outside back and a hooker? Like, these coaches spend a lot of time planning who can cover 1, 7, 6, 9, who can cover outside backs, can my back row? Like, there is a lot that goes into it that they get off the hook with, we just put a half on the bench now, you put an outside back, and then you put your middles, and if no one gets concussed or injured in the outside backs.
There was a time where, you had no fresh reserves, and then you had 2, and then it became 4, and then you had unlimited interchange, and then it was brought back to 6 and 8 and all that sort of stuff. But I think the one biggest thing that has changed in the game is the protocols around concussion these days, and the way that can impact a team on any given day. I think I kind of see some sense in having the extra selections on the bench for that reason. I know where you're coming from too.
Some of the best wins too is when you lose 2 or 3, you've got people playing in all different types of positions, you've got back rolls out in the centres.
But you still can only use 4 of them.
Yeah.
It's not like you can use all 6.
Yeah, I just like the tactical nuance of build your bench.
Okay.
4 players, you've got to cover every position. The coaches go through it.
Yeah.
If Teddy gets injured in the first 5 minutes,
Yeah.
he's going there, you're going to go there. Your team's trained for it. I feel like it takes that bit
Yeah,
of
okay.
strategy away, but it also probably preserves the product of the game in terms of
I think it does.
you lose a halfback, you can.
You're not
put
going
a
to ruin the
halfback
game.
in,
If you
but
get a head knock,
That's
in a
it.
key
You're not
position
going to
early.
ruin the game.
Yeah.
And there's so much betting, there's so much interest in from the fans these days.
Yeah.
If any way you can, it's like the sin bin rule. I kind of agree with the fact that 2 years ago it was overboard, and you were having too many
Yeah.
games decided
Yeah.
by the fact
Sin bin,
you'd lost one player. And I think this is probably just a way to keep it as a fairer contest.
Yeah. Yep, for sure. Well, you said you spoke to Bennett. He loves the new rules. I hope,
He's the only one.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to hear Wayne started the season.
Has he explained why?
Is he on the committee?
No, well, the coaches went in at the end of last season. Who was in there? It was Wayne, it was Maguire, I think it was Ivan and Ricky. And they spoke about this. Now, my understanding of the meeting is that this was on the agenda and there was a push to make it happen. I'm not sure that anyone spoke up at that meeting about it, but then following the meeting, I think it was Dave Donaghy from the Broncos put out a statement on behalf of most clubs saying that they didn't want this rule in play, but I get the feeling that it's going ahead and like it or lump it, that's the way it's going to be.
Yeah. Well, the Supercoach, he backs it, and he's looking to be in a pretty good mood. I was at Rabbitohs pre-season training just last week, and he was in the gym, actually, Wayne. He does work out with the players. Did you know that?
He's pretty fit.
Yeah, he is
still
really
benches
fit.
80
I
kilo.
have heard
I have heard... that
76 now and still benches 80 kilos.
And he can
he's
do
better-
the
going better
chin-ups.
than me.
He does the chin-ups, and he chooses the music, apparently.
Chin-ups with those long arms.
Yeah.
Wow.
He's pretty light, but long-limbed,
Tell
that's for
Robbo
sure.
this. Get Robbo in there.
But he has at the moment, it seems like the squad is looking fit. I know we've heard a couple of niggles with Latrell Mitchell and Dave Fafita, but everyone's saying they'll be right come the Charity Shield matchup in the pre-season.
I don't know if it's the Charity Shield. I
Or-
think Latrell's injury is a very minor calf strain.
Well,
but
that's great news.
He was back running yesterday. I'm pretty sure he'll be back in full work next week, and I think the plan is to play him in that game against Manly in Mudgee on the last weekend of the trials.
Well, they absolutely want
And
him.
Fafita's the same. I think he's back in full contact. It was a rib cartilage, and
Yeah.
I think he's okay too. So,
They had-
minor scares.
They had an absolutely rotten year with injuries and having to, the silver lining was they blooded a lot of young kids and they'll be better for the run, but the season obviously did not go to plan at all. Latrell Mitchell, if he's fully fit and firing, Paul needs a huge year for the Bunnies.
I think Latrell is at the crossroads of his career. For all it is already achieved, you know, he won 2 premierships with the Chooks. He's been an absolute standout in State of Origin for Australia. He's done everything in the game. But I think back, and you think of the talent that he has and even the expectation he has on himself. And it was about 4 or 5 years ago, Latrell came out with a quote where he was talking about where he wanted to be remembered and the legacy he wanted to leave. And he said, I want to be remembered as the greatest Indigenous player of all time. And I think if you look at where he stands at the moment, well, for all he's achieved, has he achieved what he's capable of? I don't think he has. And I think at 28, he's at that crossroads of his life and his career where he's still in charge of his legacy, but not for too much longer. I think regardless of if he plays fullback or centre this year, where I'm led to believe he will end up, I think it's time for Latrell to really start playing consistently at his prime.
The move back to centre's massive. So he left us in 19 and he's played fullback ever since. And it's a hard position. He's 106, he's over 100 kilos. But it's a hard position. He's had these soft tissue injuries in and out over the last 3 or 4 years. The move back to centre, it's going to help him. He's not going to be expected to touch the ball 20 times a game. He doesn't have to bring the ball back 20 times. Because a lot of the criticism's been aimed at, he doesn't play like Teddy around the ball, which he's not that player. But out in the centres, obviously got to play with him for 4 years. He'll pick and choose his moments. Cody will be there. He'll have David Fafita. He'll have AJ outside him. If they can get that going, he'll touch the ball 10 to 12 times a game. He'll be destructive down in good ball. Just needs to keep himself fit. But I am with you. It's his time now. He's at that. He's kind of late 20s now. He's done everything, but he hasn't won the premiership there at South.
No.
He's had so many injury-interrupted seasons. Like suspension and injuries, they've accumulated.
When you look back on his, I think, was it 4 seasons at the Roosters, he was averaging 24 games a year, right? And since joining South, I think it's 14 games a year. In the last 2 years, I think it's 11 games.
Yeah.
So that's what he's been up against.
In there
Suspensions. And, you know, like he's been at fault for the silly little actions that he shouldn't have done. And also you've got these injuries. And I think I agree with you completely. I think that it just makes sense to move him back to the centres. He can touch the ball 5 times in a game and set up 3 tries.
Yes, he can.
You know what I mean?
Yes, he can.
And when he really puts his mind to it, there was a game against the Warriors last season where in 20 minutes he took South off the deck and he picked him up and he nearly carried him over the line. I remember at the end of the game thinking, pity he didn't do it for 60 minutes. You know what I mean? Like he's just got so much ability, and if he can reach his potential, well then South Sydney they could do anything this year.
I think the big question, like the 1769, has been there, especially the 7-6. Like Cody's been there 6. They've experimented him at 7. They brought Jack Whiten over, who was one of the best 5'8" in the game, paid a lot of money to not play 6. So now it's like Jamie Humphries there. You got that Ashton Ward's like
Jaden Sullivan.
What are they? Yeah, Jaden Sullivan's been like. I think they need to figure that out, get stability, and then those guys, the Latrells and that, will be able to play off the back of it. But I even know for
Cody
Cody
needs to be fit
Yeah,
too, mate.
that's a
Cody
huge
needs a
part.
7 too.
Yeah.
I think his best footy was with Adam. Adam Rent. Like it's a difficult one, but they need stability through that spine. There's a lot of teams that need that, but.
Yeah.
They especially do.
Jamie Humphries is suspended, I think, for the first 2 rounds.
He is.
So
for that,
who do you think gets the 7?
Sullivan, I reckon, will get the start. They got Jonah Glover from the Dragons also, and Sullivan's coming back from a foot injury, I think, where he had surgery over Christmas. But I think he has the experience on his side. I know Bennett thinks that Jaden Sullivan's a lot better than a lot of people give him credit for.
Yeah.
I think he's got a real shine on him. And the fact that Humphries is going to miss those 2 games, it's ironic that at the start of last year, Humphries got his go when Lewis Dodd got a suspension coming out of that Charity Shield game. And Humphries got his start, and this time I think it'll be Sullivan providing he's fit. I think it can work. I think he's the sort of player that could probably carry that team around and bring the best out in Cody. It's so much, though, depends on Cody's fitness too.
To unlock that left edge.
Yeah.
It is on him. It is on him. Even Jack, what do you do with Jack?
Oh, I think he'll play right centre, and I reckon Campbell Graham probably on the wing.
Yep. I think one of the big watches will be Dave Fafita, and having spoken to him last week, he's just had the biggest cuddle from Wayne Bennett, and sometimes that's what players need, and he just looks like he wants to go to war for him. And I don't know, he just sounded like he was looking for a mentor that believed in him as a person, not just as a player. So I think that he's going to, if he has an enormous year, what a story that could be for him and for Wayne at South Sydney.
What we said earlier, what I said earlier about Latrell, I think it's the same with David Fafita,
Yeah,
and I think it's the same with Brandon Smith. You know, they've got three blokes who, at their best, are up with the best in the league. And Brandon's, you know, he's come out recently and publicly spoke about being in rehab and coming out of that, and he's off the drink and he's looking after himself, and he owes it to himself to make a go of it from here. And so much will depend on him, because you talk about they haven't had, you know, a solid hooker since Cookie left. So
yeah, it is. You look across teams, and some teams might have one, like a Newcastle Knights, right? Kalen Pongi's your X factor. You go across South, Latrell Mitchell, Cody Walker, Colin Matangi, Cam Murray, David Fafita. You got five
and
or
Jack
six,
on a good day.
And Jai Gray's a great story too. The season
5 or
he
6
had last
players
year.
that are like tippy top in our game. Like if they can get them going.
Do you think they've got the pack, especially in the middles?
I think
Cameron
they do
Murray's
now with
back
Cam.
this-
With Cam, like Arrow, Colin Matangi, Cam, and then Fafita gets going.
Tatola's another one in there.
It is. Yes, yes, they do.
Yeah. Certainly, South fans will be wanting a huge improvement on the horrible season of injuries last year. Now, let's go to their biggest arch rivals, the Roosters. Perfect segue there for you, Luke. The team that I think they meet in round 2, don't you? I think
Usually
you meet
early in the season,
very early in the season. And Dave Fafita v the Roosters will be a good story too, for lots of reasons. But for you, Luke, you've been busy working with the club, and you can tell us firsthand just how Daly Cherry Evans is settling.
Yeah, only done a little bit with the boys, but Daly, from what I've seen, has been awesome. I was there obviously when Cooper came in, and it's that same feeling. Like they don't have to say much, but the presence of players like that, he's 350 odd games, State of Origin, Queensland captain, Captain Australia, they just give you a sense of calmness. You look over and you see him, and you could tell with even the young boys, they're just hanging off him. He's working really hard with them. He just brings a experience to that group, which I think they've needed. Obviously, they didn't get the job done probably last year. They probably developed a lot further than they thought they were going to last year. These young kids now will have 20, 30 games under their belt, and then to bring Daly in on the top of that, I think they're hoping that's the cream on top of the cake that they've built over the last couple of years.
Savala, you know, he came in last year and he did a pretty good job. I think the Roosters were thinking at the time when they agreed to the deal with Daly that they'd lost a few games by narrow margins, where they'd lost their way earlier in the season, and you wouldn't expect this year with him coming to the club, and also Reece Robson, that they've got that experience, they've got the extra, you know, mileage, and some of those younger players, they've got a good roster.
Yeah.
It's like you think about Angus Crichton taking up the deal with rugby. They've got 2 first-grade pack of forwards at that club. Like, seriously, they have. You go through all their back rowers and all their middles, they're just
these guys that I've come back to who hadn't played when I got there, your Blake Steeps, Celeste Feketi, your Siwa Wongs, like Egan, like they're all now Nafahu White.
He's he's up in the top 5
these guys
middles in the game, isn't he?
Yeah, reserve grade, coming through the academy there. Now you'd call them like they're bona fide first graders, ready to go. And it gives you that feeling. All the premiership teams I've played in, always, in the 3 teams I was in, there's always a group of young guys who are just bursting through.
Ready to go.
They're bursting through. They haven't hit that peak where they're getting paid a lot of money yet. They're all on good value, and they burst through. And then
Nick has said that, hasn't he? You go back a couple of years and the Roosters had sort of climbed the mountain, and then they were down the other side sort of thing, and all these new guys have come in and they want to climb the mountain.
They made a conscious decision. 2019 we won one of the World Club Challenges. They made a conscious decision, went to Barcelona, studied all these academies. Obviously Gus set the one up at Penrith, and they've set this academy up and put a heap of time and resources and people into it. and it's now you're starting to see the fruits of it with these young kids that have progressed through it, rather than probably the traditional way they've done it, because we don't have the juniors there. They've had to kind of bring guys in once they've established themselves.
Yeah.
Tell me, how does Daly work with Sam Walker? Does it pull the reins in on Sam becoming the chief playmaker of that side? Does it impact the way that he plays, having Daly? Like, Daly spent, 15 seasons as the main man. I even if he's wearing 6 or 7, I can't see how he changes the way he plays.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting transition. You don't speak about like that inside the team. There's different roles and responsibilities for both of them. And it'll be interesting to see, and I reckon there's going to be a bit of heat. Like, I remember with Cooper.
Yeah.
I remember
he spoke about that.
I remember sitting with him on Anzac Day, and he sat with me and Ted, and he's like, the noise was like deafening, right? And it was all at him. I was just sitting back like this, but it was like, what is going on? We weren't, I think we were 4 and 4. 2018.
Yeah.
4 and 4, got beaten by Dragons on Anzac Day, and I just remember going, "Oh, this is."
What you started the season 4 losses?
4 and 4.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because you had him, everyone thought that the attack would just click straight away.
And it took us as a group time to learn how he plays, and then he obviously
had to adjust.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he had to adjust to kind of the Roosters style. And it's I reckon
that's going to happen.
You hope it doesn't, and it might not. It might just click straight away, but it might take weeks, it might take months, but the quality through that team
is there.
It really puts the expectation on Daly too, because of what you guys achieved in 18, 19.
Yeah,
like you back-to-back premierships, you know what I mean? It doesn't happen every day.
The Cooper thing,
he's walked in almost in similar circumstances where he's taken the role of a guy that was coming through. Well, in your time it was Mitch. And I don't know, I just think that this year with the Roosters and the squad that they've got, everyone expects them to win the competition.
Well, what is it, third in the premiership market, betting market, third favourite. Is that surprise you, considering, like, you know, I think, was it 7th defensively? They can score points.
Oh, they can score points.
They can score points from anywhere. But is Daly's arrival, I guess Reece Robson's the other one, the other
Reece
huge
is the one
arrival.
no one's really talking about.
Yeah.
He's a state of origin
kind of
hooker.
Forgotten one. He has been outstanding.
Okay.
He's everything that the Roosters look for. Like, he's that kind of Jake kind of built that position over a long period of time about toughness, compete, and Reece is all that, and he's got the skill on top and the New South Wales
his defensive ability to lock up the middle is very similar to Jake Friend, isn't it?
Unbelievable. It's been a bit of like, obviously Brandon didn't work out the way the club wanted, but it's been a little bit of a missing piece for the Roosters over the last few years.
Yeah. Roosters have lost a couple of key people in the off-season. Justin Holbrook, of course, is headed to Newcastle to take on a head coaching role, and Sandon Smith followed him up the freeway as well. In Newcastle, I guess that gives Justin a pretty big headache in his spine this season, with some pretty exciting players to choose from. Probably hasn't been the case for a while in the halves for the Knights to have they've had some options, but at the moment, I guess you'd say that they're really strong players to choose from. I guess in the past, the halves for the Knights have been an issue. So I'll put you straight on the spot for your former teammate, Sandon Smith. He arrives up there. He wants to be halfback. Is he halfback for the Knights come round 1?
He will be their 7. You look through the roster. He's the only option in my eyes. He's the only option. We saw Dylan Brown with Kieran in the Pacific Champs. He's one of the best sixers in the comp. When Mitch was playing with him, when Kieran had him, he probably should have won the Golden Boot at the end of the year. And Sandon is an out-and-out 7. And I think it's just perfect for both of them. Sandon comes after a bit of a tough year, but I thought he showed some really good signs. He gets to play beside a guy on $10 million, who everyone's going to be talking about. He can just go and do his job. He'll get the team around. He likes to play up in front of shape. He'll have his hands on the ball a lot. He'll kick him into good spots. And then on the other side, Dylan doesn't have the weight of the 7.
He just wants to run the ball.
He doesn't have Andrew Johns' jersey.
Yeah.
He's still got the price tag, but he's going to be able to play. He loves playing left-hand short sides. He loves playing at the back of shape. He's going to be able to just play exactly the way he played at Parramatta when he was in form. So I think it works perfect for both of them. Takes the pressure off them. The only question mark is the Fletcher Sharp situation and because he has to play. Like the talent is that he has to play, just where Justin kind of fits him into that whole puzzle.
Yeah.
Well, he did play, and I know it's completely different to playing NRL, but he did play halfback in the juniors coming through, so it's obviously in his DNA from some time back. But I agree with you completely about Sandon Smith. It's, you know, he's a talented young player. He's really good eyes up sort of footballer. He's born to play halfback.
Yep.
And it takes so much pressure off Dylan Brown. Like Dylan Brown in that Pacific series at the end of the year, he was so good. And he was the previous year in the final. And if he could just find a way to bring that consistency into his club life, he could be the best 5'8" in the competition. If, you know, like he's up with the Munsters and that. Like he's a super, super player, but it's just those moments are few and far between, aren't they? He seems to lift to another level when he plays for the Kiwis.
It's been tough. Like Mitch obviously missed nearly the whole year, right? And he's missed time through the last couple of seasons. And every time, probably they didn't have an option, but Dylan had to move to 7. We played him a heap of times where he moved from the left to the right to play 7. I had to do it a few times in my career. It's an uncomfortable feeling for a natural 5'8", and he plays a similar style, left-hand side, left short sides, out the back of shape, to then move over and control the team and kick, and you lose your eyes, and it's an uncomfortable feeling. And I know exactly how he would have felt, and he would have felt so free during that Pacific Championship to have Kieran up in front, playing on ball. He was the second half, and he's going to be the second half on a lot of money, but he's probably going to have the most impact out of all of them.
Yeah.
Could you give us an idea of Sandon Smith as a halfback, like on a regular basis? Does it remind everyone, is there any similarities at all with Luke Metcalf from the Warriors, with his speed and the way that he could blow open a game?
He's so fast and powerful. He's only small. He's got a good kicking game now. He's worked really hard on it, but he is powerful. You've seen in that Anzac Day clash last year, can blow a game open. And sometimes it took me a while too. It takes these halves 50 games. I think Sandon would be under 50. He'd be around that 50 mark. I think Joey said it before about he started to see the game better at about 80 or 90 games. Like, it's going to take him a while, but I think he's got that ability that Luke Metcalf showed last year to just turn it on. And Justin's perfect for this. Like, they struggled with their attack a bit. He is perfect. He was with us the last 2 seasons. I think the Roosters have been number 1 in attack. He was there. He was with us in 17 when our attack was good. Like, he is perfect for these Newcastle spine members.
Yeah, because you said before about it creates a headache for Justin. It actually alleviates a headache, knowing that you've got him to come there, and then
true.
You know
the headache is just where you play Fletcher Sharp. That's really the headache only.
But even as a winger, when he really burst onto the scene, he was finding his moments coming in off the wing and just backing up through the middle of the ruck. And I actually, even though the Knights had such a disappointing year, if they can get Ponga on the field and he's fit, you know, 2 years ago you saw what he did. Like the Knights could beat anyone, and then you've got Dylan Brown, who at his best is as good as anyone out there.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it would not surprise me at all if they stay fit and play the majority of the season if the Knights aren't pushing around the top 8.
They'll be a lot better than what they were last year. Yeah. The question mark is the pack.
Yeah.
Leo Thompson moves on. Like Saifidi, Frizzell's coming to the back end. He's kind of playing that middle role, limited mid. Like, it's a little bit thin, but there's probably opportunity there for a couple of young guys.
Well, haven't they got a couple from Canberra, Salo and
Trey Mooney?
Yeah.
You know, and Trey Mooney had to leave the Raiders because Papali had stayed on another year, so he's got his shot to try and prove that he's a week-to-week starter.
Yeah. And they kick off the season with a trip to Las Vegas, so certainly a really exciting one for Newcastle Knights fans. Now, the Cronulla Sharks visited them as well last week, and when you, visit all the clubs and you really look at them on paper and then actually speak to them, spoke to Craig Fitzgibbon, I just feel like it's now or never for this team that Craig has assembled, because it's been together for, 4 years now, mostly obviously added Adam Fanua-Blake last year, and they've been about thereabouts. Like, they've been up there in the top 5 teams since Craig Fitzgibbon took over as coach.
2 prelims in a row.
Yeah. So for me, it feels like this is the time. This year has to be their year, or he's going to have to make some big decisions about the roster.
I think he's put them on notice. He publicly came out. There's about 8 or 9 of them off contract that he said we'll decide after.
This is the year.
Yeah, we'll decide through the year what happens. I really like him. I think they've got to these 2 prelims. They'll be in every game. They're never going to get blown out. They're a tough footy team. They're a defensive side. They're in all these games. I reckon they'll be there. They'll be up and around that 4. They've run into Penrith and Melbourne for the last 2 or 3 years. Like they beat the Roosters last year at home, got to that prelim again. But again, the question is Kennedy, Trindle, Hines. There's no question mark on Brayley anymore. He's one of the premier 9s in the comp. But can they get this Kennedy, Trindle and Hines going? And what does that look like? The question marks, the noise will start early. The noise will start early with Nico.
You spoke about 8 or 9 players, off contract at the end of the year. Nico's not. And Braden Trindle's there. And that's the combination, and along with Kennedy at fullback, that has to click. I think at the end of the season, there was so much pressure on them, and understandably so, talk about them last year, because they weren't owning the big moments, those guys. But then at the end of the season, they did. And I reckon the confidence that they will take out of that, you tell me, just the fact that they've gone there and they did a job on Canberra in that game, and the 2 halves really took control of that game. And I know it didn't end up as a grand final, but I think that they will go into this season with a lot more belief in themselves that they can get the job done.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're just prime ready. I think that roster's been together, you said, Lara, for 5 years now.
Yeah.
Fitzy's kind of...
But Nico and Braden Trindle had last year was their first full season together in the halves, and there was that whole chat every week about who's the dominant half. Does Fitzy need to make that call, or do you buy that he can let a player dominate depending on the opposition? Can he change it up each week?
Well, it depends on their philosophy around footy, right? Like, if I asked you who's the dominant half in Melbourne, what's the answer?
Depends on the week.
Exactly. I think it's the exact same with them. And Hannay moves on. He was the attack. Holdsworth comes up. Like, it's going to... We don't know. We're not inside. But they will have a philosophy and a way they want to play. And there'll be a decision. Do we want Nico to be the man? Is it Braden? Or is it that Melbourne philosophy of you're both in and out?
They sort of did that, didn't they, towards the end of the year? Like, Trindle is the 7. He's the natural leader of that side. He leads them around the park. But the way that Nico added to moments in those big games at the end of the season, it's sort of, that's how they should work.
Yeah.
Trindle's the 7. Nico plays the 6 role, and that's... he plays off the back of him. He takes his moments. It's like Munster at Melbourne, isn't it? Although some games Munster will go out and just decide, I'm going to run the ball 25 times today and try and stop me.
It's going to come... I reckon they're going to be in the exact same position this year. They're going to get to one of these big games, and like you said, it's about whether a couple of them take these big moments, take a game by the neck and just go, it's time to win. And I spoke to Cam, I'm close with Cam McInnes. I could tell straight away, it's like, this is it.
That's
this is our
the feeling
year.
was.
And it can go one or two ways, right? These off-contract guys, if it starts to go a bit the other way, it can be a lot of noise and managers coming in and people moving and things like that. Or it can go, they're motivated, they're hungry.
Yeah.
They're all fighting for contracts.
And Brayley's also at that. He like you said, he's confirmed he's one of the best hookers in the game. If not, he'll be playing State of Origin this year.
Yep.
Well, him or Robson.
Yep.
But the way that he performed last year, you'd think he's maybe got his nose in front.
Yeah, he's emerged as a leader of that club.
He is.
He's a captain.
Outstanding player.
And an enormous back end of the season for him personally. It's like he took that captaincy and it made him a stronger player.
Yep.
And he was already having such a wow of a season. All right, so me and Luke are on the Sharks bandwagon or something. We're not even allowed to say that. You're a Roosters man. And
Have you sat down and tried to pick your 8?
Yeah, impossible.
Like, honestly, there's even trying to pick who do you think's going to be a wooden spooner this year?
Who misses out? Like it's
so many teams that have so much potential to improve.
Yes.
And then
wooden spoon, Crawls?
I sat down and I don't think I can come up with one at the moment, mate.
No.
You know, because you've got to see them play. Like,
no.
if you were pushed, I don't think the Dragons will get the wooden spoon.
Oh.
But I do. No. Listen. But I do think they've got the most challenges in their roster. But I think they've got that much fight in them that they won't finish at the bottom of the table. But like even teams like the Titans, that if you put the Dragons roster up against the Titans, do you take the Titans? Newcastle against the Dragons, do you take Newcastle with the Ponga and the Dylan Brown factor in that? I don't know. Like you think about it's a tough one to come up with the wooden spoon.
Isn't it mean? It's a horrible feeling.
I'm not saying they'll get the wooden spoon.
No.
I'm just saying that when you look at their roster, I think it's the most challenged.
Well, people did that to Canberra last year. They said
they did.
Yeah.
There you go.
they've lost players here. There's all
They've
these
got so
young
much
guys,
youth
Jacks,
though, Canberra.
and it was a lot. It was hard to see how it clicked, and then
They did.
it clicked.
Do you think the Raiders can stay up there and
Obviously
improve on what they
To win
did?
another minor premiership is going to be very difficult. It'll be. I'm really interested to see how the Fogarty influence.
Yeah.
How big of an influence was he? Kobe Black there. I think he might miss the start of the season.
Yeah,
If
he's a
Sanders
chance. He's got a nerve.
That's
injury,
a big. That is to change half. It's big for any club.
A big adjustment.
And especially the thing they had, and Ethan Strange would have felt really comfortable with a steady 7. So now one of these young guys comes in. That'll be their biggest.
Yeah,
how that looks.
question
But
Don't
I
forget
think
they
they'll
lost
still
him
be
for
good.
that last game too, last year, and
it's heartbreaking.
I would probably think it would have been more difficult if Fogarty would have stayed, given the way that he just did not step up in that match against the Broncos and the following week. You know what I mean? Like I reckon there would have been some really hard questions with him, and I think there's an opportunity for the Raiders to try and move forward without that pressure on. Fogarty's going to, he's as good as he was for Canberra, and he was great at times. In the big moments, in a couple of seasons at the end of the year, he just didn't step up.
Yeah, it's the Ethan and Ethan show potentially to start the season with that young Ethan Sanders. He wants to get that shot, so we'll see how that unfolds. All right, time for some fan feedback questions, gentlemen. Jamaican Me Crazy wants to know, who's your favourite rugby league personality to have a beer with? Or a pina colada, whatever your choice is. Personality.
Yeah,
Who would that be?
Souths. I used to love having a beer with like Sammy. You know who's the one that bit left field? Joe Picker.
Yeah.
Remember Joe Picker? Used to go down the bowl. I used to go to the bowl. I was young. He was a bit older. I used to love having a beer. His brother trained all the trotters down in Goulburn.
Good chat.
Yeah, Joe was good. And then Roosters, there's a lot. Boyd Cordner.
Yeah, I feel like Boyd.
He is like
good time.
Yeah, when you go have a beer with him, you better be ready to lock in for a while with him.
Has 20 beers and probably...
What about rugby league journo personality? Who's the best one to have a beer with? Crawls?
Oh, gee whiz, on his day. Paul Kent. Well, I have been mates with Ketty for 40 years.
Yes.
And we've had a lot of fun over the years.
A lot of shouting.
At the moment, it wouldn't...
together.
All
right.
He's going through a tough time.
Of course, we're thinking of him. Bunny Boyle wants to know, Luke, what's the main differences between playing at Souths compared to playing at the Roosters?
Well, it's hard to compare, right? Because when I came in at Souths, I was a young kid, and I loved when I got there. We had Madge, but we had Roy Asatasi, Michael Crocker, Matt King, like all these older guys who just showed us the way, and we lost that way. We went through a bad period, and then when I got to the Roosters, they were a younger crew, but it was Boyd, Jake Friend, Jared Rea-Hargraves, Mitch Orbison, Kenny Dow was there. Like it was just a different feel. Like I guess at the Rabbitohs, you feel like you're across the other side of Anzac Parade, a bit further from the water. At the Roosters, you feel like you're kind of down near the beach. It doesn't feel like that when you're in there, but I don't know. The differences, there's not too much of a difference. You both hate each other.
Yeah, one's a glamour club, one's a what?
It's known as that, but when you're in there, it doesn't feel like that at the Roosters.
It so is. Sorry.
When I got there was 2 demountables and like
Poor buggers. How do they?
Now you've got a brand new shiny stadium.
Well,
and
the Souths have a brilliant facility too down at
They do, at Heffron, that's right. Paul, who was the biggest player to come out of the Central Coast that you played with or against? The Gosford Gremlin wants to know.
Played with, it would be David Fairley. Steve Carter was another great player for Penrith in the day, and he whopped us in a lot of grand finals as a kid. Dave Fairley was a tremendous player, won the Rothmans medal in his day. Going back in the years, there was guys like Graham Eady, but I never got to play with him.
Okay. Red V, as a part of me, has asked me a question. I don't know why. You've been covering this game for a long time. Who's your favourite player or coach to interview? I get asked this a lot because I feel like I've interviewed so many of them on the sidelines. Coach-wise, I love a challenge, so Wayne Bennett's always my favourite. I've had some really funny, grumpy interviews with Wayne pre-game.
How does it make you feel?
I don't know. I feel like it's so satisfying to come up with the questions, and then I've got to come up with a lot more for him because, you know, he might give you a one-word answer, and then there's moments where I will get cranky if he gives me like a 30-second interview, and I think he takes some secret joy out of, like, you know, making you feel uncomfortable. But I don't like Wayne in a press conference though, because it can be so hard to get anything out of, and I feel like we're just doing our job trying to get information for the fans. I've spoken many
times about that. You know, there was a couple of press conferences over time where you think to yourself, mate, you could have done better than that.
Yeah, and what does he say to you?
Well, I think that talking straight after games for any coach is a really difficult thing. And I think when sometimes you walk in and you could be so angry at yourself, you could be so angry at the players, but you may not have even spoken to them at that stage, and then you're forced to go in front of press conferences. You know, it can be very challenging. And of all the things he's done in his career, the one thing he's never been able to deal with is how to front that situation after one of those moments. And I think, you know, it's hard to say, you know, sometimes coaches won't even go. Yeah. You know, you've seen blokes like Ricky.
He didn't go a few times last year because he lost his tooth, remember?
Yes, he did.
What an excuse. I wanted him to come along just to see the tooth.
But blokes like Ricky, I've felt for him during press conferences over time.
I'm sorry, that's the best rugby league television there is.
It is great television,
Ricky,
but it doesn't make it easy for them. I kind of understand where they're coming from. I think sometimes pre-match, you know, they can give a little bit more.
Yeah.
But I do understand the emotion of it all. And of course, they're all different personalities, aren't they?
And that's what we love about it.
And just...
Yeah, you've been next to Robbo before and actually laughed too at it at some time. The angry.
Laughing on the side.
Yeah. And when it comes to player, it has to be just the personality players, and I always think of like the Josh Addo-Carrs, the guys who score the tries. When you interview them after games, it's always such a joy, and to make them laugh. Luke, you were pretty good fun to speak to after games. You always had your breath back in time. Scott Drinkwater's another great interview because he will always give you a really honest answer. If the team's playing like rubbish, he'll tell you that. And often you guys speak in cliches, which is really boring for us. All right. I've got to give a plug here because this Sunday, live in Sydney, UFC 325 is on. Volkanovski v Lopez, and it's only on mainevent.com.au. So are you a UFC fan, Luke, or are you just a Volkanovski fan?
I love Volk, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So you'll be backing him?
Definitely.
Yeah?
Again, he'll do it again.
Crawls, we'll be watching, I'm sure. You'll be ordering it now on Main Event.
Yes, of course.
Okay. All right, well, that's all we have time for. I just have to say and embarrass Luke, happy birthday for next week. Old man, how many?
34.
34.
Wow.
Well, come back and join us. Nice to see you, Crawls.
Thank you.
See you soon. Thanks so much.